The time has come, I believe, for the creation of an increasingly complex human cooperative structure. A new way of being human beings. We've gone through this transition before when we went from caves to villages and villages to city-states and city-states to nations, corporations. We need something new right now. What we have is broken. Whatever side of the fence you're on, whatever firm beliefs you have, most people agree that things are broken, and things may get challenging. We live on a variable earth, and we need to be prepared. We need to have something that will allow our ancestors to thrive. Not just to survive, but to thrive. We need to build that now for them. Something that could survive the Yellowstone caldera or the Cascadia subduction tsunami or earth crust displacement. The melting ice is putting the ocean into a heart attack. And the weight of the melting ice is pushing down on the plates. This is how mountain ranges are formed. We know the ocean has risen almost 2,000 feet from high to low. And we're right in the middle right now. And we're coming out of a time that is called the Holocene. It's been called the 10,000 years of grace. It's where the Earth had a mean constant temperature because of the thermohaline conveyor and the way it pumped nutrients and temperature and salt all around the world. But the melting ice put it into cardiac arrest. So that melting ice is also putting a lot of weight onto the plate. Take a look at the Google Earth and look at the Pacific Ocean. Right? That's how much weight. And if you think, a couple of feet of sea level rise is no big deal, calculate the weight of that. You'll be astonished. So we must be the ancestors our descendants deserve. We must see this moment in time we're in, and we must act. And we must build something better now. We can do it. We have everything we need. We have all the people we need. There are so many good people in the world. But we have to form an organization that is like a flock of starlings. Moves together. But you can't let hawks into a flock of starlings. It, by definition, is not a flock of starlings anymore. Starlings flock because they're protecting themselves from hawks. We need an increasingly complex cooperative structure. That's what they say the history of the evolution of cooperation is. Not dog-eat-dog competition. That's a part of it. But the more dominant thread of evolution is increasingly complex cooperative structures. And there's always a pattern. And that pattern is cooperators cooperate, they get along, everything's cool, and then a free rider comes and takes the benefits of cooperation without expending energy themselves. They come and they take. Which makes it no longer logical to be a cooperator. Why cooperate if someone else is going to come and take what you do, right? So that's the barrier to evolution. And then there's always a breakthrough technology. Something comes along and solves the free rider problem, and so suddenly there's a flood of abundance because it's logical to be a cooperator again. As long as you mitigate the free riders, you don't have to eliminate them, but you have to pretty much mitigate them. The people who don't want to work for what they get. But then you also have to have a system that celebrates the people that work for what they get. because we're not all created equal. Some people are hardworking and dedicated and invest in themselves and learn skills and trades and knowledge and right and others, hang around and play video games and buy monster trucks. Evolution's not for everybody. We need to be able to have a group of people that all agree upon a certain set of precepts, and that's the first thing to do. So what I call for is a constitutional convention, for the compact, for the Confederation of Quantum Peace. This new, increasingly complex cooperative structure, and it's built on the design of the greatest American who ever lived. The man who invented Confederation. No, it wasn't Robert E. Lee. It was a man so revered that Native people do not call his name. But it is spoken of that the time will come to call his name. And I think that time is now. We need confederation, and confederation is an alliance of autonomous entities. We're all sovereign in a confederation. We can give our voice to others, but it remains our voice. So in a confederation, imagine if we had a confederation of 1 million people in this confederation of quantum peace. And we all agree just not to use force and coercion against each other. And to pretty much let people be people and, love who you want. Because if in this crazy world, if you can find someone to love, more power to you, we start letting people live their lives unless they're preying on others. They're using force and coercion, and lying is a form of force and coercion. Right? It's trying to get something by trickery that you couldn't get by agreement, and those things, I believe, should banish you from the Confederation. But then we have a mechanism for doing that, but we each have the ability, all 1 million of us, to give our voice to the people we think would run that process the best. And then we also can give our voice to the person we think would be the best strategic thinker to plan for the whole enterprise of this confederation, because this confederation is going to build commonwealth. Right? Study Ostrom, study the 8 parameters. Right? There's a science to the commons. It's the oldest word in language. It was written on a cuneiform tablet in Assyria. And it was a commons between a whole bunch of growers of barley and a few brewers of beer. And the purpose of it was to make sure the brewers of beer didn't become monarchs, didn't become kings, didn't become freeriders. Right? So if you brought a bushel of barley, you got a chit, you got a piece of the cuneiform tablet. It was broken off. It was your proof that you brought in that much barley, and then you came and you were able to cash that in for beer at the end. Right? It's the commons. It's how we always govern things. And communism took the name, but none of the principles. Communism violates all 8 Ostrom parameters. And if you don't know who Eleanor Ostrom is, she's the most important thinker of the next 100 years. Look her up. She won a Nobel Prize. Yeah. 1 million of us wouldn't need to have a single asset. We just all would need to be in confederation and agreement, and we come together and we in this constitutional convention, we come up with a compact that we're all willing to sign to, like the Mayflower Compact that my ancestors signed. It's time for us to step up. It's time for us to act. It's now or never. Clutch time. I want to be a drop of a rainbow of us. I want to be part of the greater one. The whole that is greater than the sum of its part. That thing we can only be together. We can't be alone. Right? Like a man and woman can't be a family alone. They have to come together one way or another. It's non-zero. It's 1 plus 1 equals 3. And 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 to a million becomes quantum. What I've heard is quantum is like, a regular computer, if it was plotting the best route up a mountain, would have to go up each path. Really, it could do it fast, but it would go up each path, and then it would have a set of parameters. It would judge the pass by, and it would come up with the best route. Whereas a quantum computer goes down all paths at once and instantly knows what path is best. Right? So in a confederation of quantum peace, we're able to kind of know what we all need, and we become a million people supporting each other, loving each other, because love has only ever been the currency of security. Peace.